I am excited this week to have Mr. Patrick McBride, owner of the McBride Agency out of Dixon, Illinois. Patrick himself. Patrick prides himself on delivering the modern insurance experience, so I can't wait to deep dive into that. Patrick, welcome to the show today.
Hey, Brad, thanks for having me. Super pumped about being here, man.
Yeah, I am excited. I've been kind of tracking you a little bit online, and we had a chance to just kind of touch base a few weeks ago. So I am excited to have you on the program today, learn more about what you do, what you have to offer, because I think it's really fantastic for our industry. So, like we always do, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you found yourself into the insurance space?
Yeah, so I am not your typical story. Everybody we hear says we didn't want to be in insurance. No one grows up and wants to be in insurance. And I kind of have a reverse story from there. So I knew 15 years ago that I wanted to be in insurance, and I didn't have any family members. Nobody owned an agency. We just went through a time in our life where we saw someone who worked in an office show the appropriate amount of emotional support and the emotional connection, and then the support that the policies offer inside a really dire time in our lives, like kind of showed us what insurance can do and what an agency can do and what really caring for clients can do. So I said, if I ever left my current industry, I would absolutely 100% join insurance. And I did. So I spent the majority of my adult career. I tried college. I did not do well there. I joined the military. I was an infantry Marine, what I call the torchbearers. So I was trained by the Gulf War vets. I trained up and was inside a first light armored reconnaissance battalion with first LAR battalion within first MARDIV. And I trained up the guys that went to war after 9/11. So I was out during that time, like kind of processed out. Met my wife very, very shortly after all that happened. So when I got out of the Marine Corps, I played with bicycles. And man, I rode them, I raced them, I built them, I promoted races. I was all over the South and Southwest. I had such an incredible time doing that. 2008 hit, and kind of saw this really crazy, rocky, disposable income kind of disappeared. My customer was not the Walmart guy. And it kind of shook what we were doing. And the next couple of years, we, kind of walked through some tragedy in our lives. We saw what happened with insurance. And my wife and I made a commitment that if I was ever going to get a real job, I would, and it would be this. So, fast forward a couple of years, I was traveling all over the world for the bicycle world, inside the industry, doing some tech stuff, bridging the gap between the consumers, the shops, the local bicycle shops, and the manufacturers, and supply chain management. Some really cool things we were doing there. And my wife comes to me, and I just gotten off of I think I was gone for 19 days straight. And she's pregnant with our youngest child at that point. So he's 9 now. And she looks at me, and I'm not kidding, Brad. I'm sitting there, I'm in board shorts, like, the long skater kind of board shorts, if you can imagine me in those. Board shorts, flip-flops, like a mechanic shirt. That doesn't have my name on it. I think it said Ryan, and my name is clearly not Ryan. Right. And a flat bill ball cap. And she's like, "You need a real job," because I was gone for 19 days in a row. And I'm not kidding. Like a 5-year-old who doesn't want to go to bed. I'm stomping my feet. I'm flailing my arms, and I'm like, "But I got a real job."
Yeah.
I lost that fight, clearly. So that kind of began the pursuit to really find what was going to be the right fit for us inside the insurance world. But we knew what we wanted. We knew maybe not necessarily the product that we wanted to represent or the brand, but we knew the emotion we wanted to convey and the connection we wanted to have with people. And this is the only industry that would ever allow us to do that.
Yeah. So before we get into your insurance background, because I want to get into that, because there was a couple stops there, it looked like.
Yeah.
What was that experience that introduced you to the insurance space that had such an effect on you?
Yeah. So we lost a daughter in 2009. So she passed away. She was, so I always tell everybody we have 5 kids, and then they start doing math and they're like, I only know 4.
Yeah.
So we had our oldest 2, and then we had a daughter, Erin. She was 28 weeks in a day or two. My wife will correct me on the number of days. And she fought like hell. And it just, she lasted. So the date sticks, right? 15 days. And everybody who sells any sort of life insurance can understand why that matters. I had no idea at the time. We're 27 years old, 28 years old, young-ish to be the parent of 3 and inside of an industry that kept me away from home a lot.
Yeah.
And we just, I actually shared a video on our YouTube that kind of helped me process some of that this last year on the anniversary of her birthday or her passing, and just kind of helped me verbally process all of that. But 15 days later, she just kind of, it just didn't work out, without getting too technical and too medical there. But yeah. So the what I can only describe as an emotionally appropriate amount of time after her passing in the services did this producer, and she's so much more, right? We say producer.
Yeah.
And a lot of times it seems demeaning, right? Like, oh, they're just a producer.
Yeah.
But just to make sure to mention the impact that you don't have to have your name on the door in our world to be so impactful. And I think every one of us would share that same sentiment, that our team is so much more powerful and we're so much more capable because of the team we have with us. So Marcy called. She's like, hey, I know you guys are going through some stuff, but I wanted to kind of talk to you, see if we can offer some help and some solace in this really tough time. And she walked us through what, the children's term riders were on a life insurance policy, because Aaron was our second child to be born super premature. Our oldest son is 20, he'll be 21 this year. He was, same hospital, very similar weight, very similar gestation. He's, ornery, but healthy. He's everybody's 21-year-old son in this world. He's no different.
Yeah.
But that kind of connected us, outside of understanding I have to have auto insurance because the state says so and this is dumb, to a real understanding that insurance is there for those moments, and then how we can connect with folks in that time.
Yeah. So your producer was, she was there for you.
Yeah.
She went above and beyond, is what it sounded like, because she left, she left an imprint. It's from what it sounds like. So that
she did.
Yeah.
She did.
Well, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. So let's transition into the McBride agency. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go into your insurance background a little bit, how you got started.
So that whole process led us down when I threw my fit and lost that battle. It kind of drug us down the path of applying for any insurance job you could find. I had no experience outside of being a consumer, right? So we went down the path. We got offered a couple of opportunities from some of the captive carriers, as principals and that job. We turned them down because it didn't feel like I knew enough, and all I wanted to do was do a great job. So actually went and talked to a State Farm agent who is, no kidding, outside my window and about half a block to the south. His office is out in the window. So if you look out these windows behind me, you can see him. But he got me a job with a State Farm agent in the next town over. And I worked for that guy for about a year and a half, went through State Farm's Aspirate program, thought State Farm was going to be my career of choice for the rest of my life. And there's nothing wrong with State Farm. So I say that, and I don't want to put a any sort of red mark on anybody. But when the age of my kids and what we had gone through and all these different pieces, when we started going through that process, they're like, this is great. You're a perfect opportunity. This is the kind of capital you need. And we're going to move you halfway across the country with your junior high age kids now. And it just wasn't the right choice.
Yeah.
So MetLife actually knocked on our door as a captive opportunity, and it solved a lot of problems for us. And we thought it was a great opportunity. And we absolutely fell in love. Within a year, I think we were one of the top producing agencies in the country for the captive channel for MetLife. And, maybe I shouldn't say it on air, but I was one of the internal champions for the Farmers acquisition from the agent standpoint. I was the vice chair of the National Agent Advisory Panel, our committee inside MetLife. And all the information we heard was going to show us how the good opportunity we had was only going to be better. And I was absolutely the first person to leave after we transitioned. So MetLife turned to Farmers. Farmers and I didn't get along well. We'll just leave it there.
Yeah.
I think it could be a great opportunity for the right person. It just wasn't for us. So we transitioned. So that was from 2017 to 2021 is when that transition with Farmers happened. Our contract was signed in September of 21. By December, I had turned in notice. So within 3 months, I had turned in our notice to Farmers, and I was out. We decided we were going to go scratch independent. Farmers did not honor the tenure or the equities that we did have. No vesting schedule allowed. So we walked away from what was, the captive world we measure in premium. So there was an excess of $2 million in premium, a couple $100,000 in revenues
in a year. Oh no, you were with MetLife.
So it was about 5 years. Yeah. It was about 5 years total. And we walked away from it, from one of the highest producing MetLife offices that they had. I mean, top two, one or two for 3 years straight. I think we traded blows back and forth with a gal out of New Hampshire. And we walked away scratch, and we had zero revenues. We got no customers. We honored the 12-month non-solicit. We honored the 12-month non-compete, non-acceptance clause. So we weren't allowed to accept those policies for a total of a year. And we got a lot of ire from customers and even, the industry, like, well, why don't you just take it? It's not legally enforceable.
Wow.
If we were hurting, it might've been a different story.
Yeah.
I like to think that morally I can stand on the high ground and say, no matter what happened, we did the right thing.
Yeah.
And we have had just a tremendous run. So April 1st, on April Fool's Day, 2022, we launched the Scratch Agency independent. We kept our entire staff. And that's actually kind of a really interesting story if we have time, but we thought we had an SBA loan lined up to do this because we'd done it for a couple of years. We showed our production, we showed what we could do, and we had 2 full-time staff members and myself. So we had a team of 3, and we thought we had an SBA loan. And if we didn't have an SBA loan, I was extremely confident that we had a private financier that was just going to come in. He owns a different business who was going to come in, fund the money, take a percentage of ownership, and be able to kind of finance our first year and a half. And both fell through within 45 days of opening our doors. So my wife, Misty, and I sat down. This is after oh my God, I'm going to get sick. Drive home, throw up on the side of the road because of all the stress and the things we don't talk about. We talk about the awards and the accolades and all this incredible stuff. Nobody talks about I was so stressed. I threw up in the 10-minute drive to my house, and I literally went to my room. I shut the blinds. I shut all the blinds. I closed all the windows. I turned the lights off. I just sat in the dark for like 2.5 hours. Like, oh my God, what am I going to do? If you can imagine me in a fetal position, I may have or may have not been in this really embarrassing situation, just stressed, not knowing what to do with my own self.
Yeah.
And then the team we had. So a couple hours later, pull myself out of my panic mode, spent some time in prayer. I mean, we just really kind of refocused my mind. I'm like, okay, this is not the end of the world. Just go find a solution. It doesn't have to be perfect. Go find the next right step. Walked downstairs, grabbed my laptop, started running numbers, and I came up with 2 solutions. And I sat down and talked to my wife. We looked at it, we prayed about it, and we figured either A, we fire everybody and we start over. We did it scratch before, right? With the amount of revenues we bring in and what we have in savings. And we could, if we need to, we've got a 401k that if things get real tight, we can pull from that and we can make this work. Just you and me. And mind you, she's in a master's program and she homeschools one of our 4 kids. So she's like, okay, I don't like that option. What's option 2? I said, option 2, you're really going to hate. We're going to draw the entire 401k out. We're going to live on our 401k and our cash for the next 13 to 15 months. The money that's in the business and all the money the business makes is going to go back into staff. It's going to invest in who we have. It's going to invest in the technologies. And we're just going to invest with the anticipation of scale over the next 13 to 15 months. And if it fails, well, we're at zero and we have no savings. If it doesn't, then we start taking a paycheck, 15 months from now, and we can start continuing to build. And we chose option 2. So our entire team stayed with us the entire time.
How many staff did you have with you at that point?
So we had 2 full-time plus 2. Me. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. And they, they believed in you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. 100%. We're overly transparent. is probably the right word with some of that. We made the decision. We did not ask them for their input on the decision, right? Like, do you want to keep your job or you want us to fire you? Like, I don't feel like that builds a lot of trust. So we made up our mind on what we were going to do, and then we were open. We're like, hey, like, we're team meeting. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
This is our goal. And if you're with us, we're with you. We're going to invest in you. We believe in you. We believe in what we can do together. You've shown us this. I believe with these opportunities, we can do this. So if you're with us, what we're going to do is we're going to shut the office down for the next 10 days. I want you guys to take time off paid, right? It's already in the budget, whether we're there or not. We're not writing business. So we're trying not to write farmers business because that's just irrelevant.
Right.
So take the next 10 days off, go enjoy your time off, and just know when you come back on, I think it was March 25th or so, come back in prepped and ready to go, and know that April 1st, we're going to run, and we're going to run harder and faster and longer than you've ever ran in your life for the next 12 to 18 months. And man, Brad, I have done almost nothing in comparison to what our team has done. Like our producer, who stepped up into that producer role, she has done things that I've never done. And I consider myself a sales guy. Like she is killing it because of the processes we put in place and her diligence and just her willingness to learn the craft. And I'm so blown away by it all.
So yeah, I mean, you hit the ground running, April 1st. So where were you getting prospects, leads at that point?
Yeah. So this was back in the day when you still got loan officer referrals, because our current climate, we might get 4 or 5 a month from our troop. We were getting 15 or 20. Okay. We have a relatively good name online. We've done a great job with social media content, and I say we've done an adequate job with the content. We've done a great job at making sure that our perfect client sees that content.
Okay.
So those pieces put together, and we do a couple contests here and there. I can't say that those have shaped our world or shaken the tree much, but we're profitable on them. It's a good way to get our name out there. We're still involved and engaged in our community. And I'm not the guy that, there's the adage, right? Go be the mayor of your town. I don't disagree. I don't disagree at all, but I'm not.
I'm not either.
I'm a quieter guy in our community. I love to support it. I like to support it from the background, whatever I can do. We're happy to do, but it really has been so much more of the people around us and the processes. So our marketing process has been good. Our social media has stood amongst some of the top, certainly in our region. I think we're standing on top. We have a tremendous process for Google reviews, which is just building our algorithms. And we just built processes that help the long game so much more than one policy this week or one policy next month, where it has done so much more for us over the long term.
Yeah. Let's dive into those processes. Your modern insurance experience.
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
I'll put this caveat out there first. I love tech. I am all about making sure that we as people do the things that we as people are good at and let the tech do everything else. Build a process or build a system where you can just be you and have that relational connection, and the tech's going to do all the boring stuff, right? All the repetitive, mundane, monotonous, not thinking pieces. So before I get into anything else, like, understand this. If you don't have the tech, you don't need to do anything that we're doing. There are agencies out there right now who are doing more, helping more people, solving more problems, who still fax. Like, right.
I just giggle every time I hear the word fax.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too. Right.
Yeah.
But there are folks out there who would still prefer a paper app that are writing more business than me. They're in bigger conversations. They're solving bigger problems. They're creating more revenues for their agencies and doing more in their communities than I am. I promise there's somebody out there doing it.
Yeah. I don't knock anybody for their methods. If you're working mailings, if you're sitting face to face with people and filling out paper apps, if you're doing it, you're happy doing it. Your customers are happy. What do I care? So yeah.
So I guess if I were going to tell you what a modern insurance experience means, quite literally the idea is to remove the friction. So we have a saying in our office to friction is a 4-letter word. So if there's friction, that means that there's the opportunity for tension or abrasion. And if you just literally think of sandpaper, if you put two pieces of sandpaper together face to face and you started moving them, there's friction. You can move them, but not easily and not without some sort of marring or scarring or, kind of just some sort of discourse that happens between those two pieces of sandpaper. It can move. Our job is to make it as frictionless as possible. Insurance is not easy, right? To do the right thing for your customer, to have a right understanding of what their risk really is, to put the right policies in place in a world where it's been commoditized and boiled down to click these 4 buttons and say yes. Now, we love the automation and we love the back-end algorithms that build those problems or solve those problems faster than you or I could. But it takes a human to really understand the risk and to be able to ask real questions and dive in.
Yeah.
How many times do you ask a customer, well, what are your liability limits? That's not a risk assessment, right?
Yeah.
That doesn't do the right thing. You're not solving the problem for the client.
I don't even ask that question, or I don't even have my team asking that question anymore.
No. So our kind of the whole idea behind it is to leverage technology to allow us to be more free to have more conversations. So we deploy some specific technologies that allow us to see more data, to see data more clearly, to engage with our customers a little bit more. Think of it this way. If somebody calls with a claim and a tree just fell on their house, and this is a recent claim of ours, tree fell on their house. The wife was supposed to be in the back room where the tree fell on the treadmill. But she ended up going to the store because the husband called and said, hey, will you go get this? I need this from the store. Will you grab it? And she's like, sure, I'll go grab it for my workout. She comes home and the treadmill is now 6 inches below this 90-year-old tree. It's this 90-foot tall tree. It's this incredibly tall oak tree. You cannot believe that she should have been in that room. The modern insurance experience allows us to have a real conversation with her and nothing else gets dropped. Nothing else got put off that day because we stopped and had a conversation with Mr. and Mrs. Customer. They submitted some information. We dialed it up, put it in our process, our claims form. It automatically created tasks for our claims teams. It automatically created a follow-up process for our team to go through and check based on the information given. And we had the claim filed with the carrier that afternoon based on the information given. But our team, I was able to stay on the phone with that customer for an extra 20 minutes. And my team was in the background already doing the work because all we did was take the information, plug it in the system, let the robots do their job. I didn't have to get off the phone with the customer, go have a conversation. I didn't have to write anything else down. Yeah. And my team already had the follow-up scheduled. They already had the claim started with the carrier. By the time we got off the phone, she got off the phone with me because the carrier was calling her with my CSR team, 3-weighing them in.
Wow.
And I didn't leave my desk, Brad.
Yeah.
Right. And that's, if I could wrap all of it up into one little idea and emotion, that's it. My customer knew I cared and I stayed on the phone with him until claims called. And we text every other day on it. Hey man, we just got another check. What's this for? Like, well, that's the ALE or that's the personal property or that's the, that's the different pieces of your policy. We're just talking it through. And he's like, this is it. I'm never going anywhere else. I don't care if the carrier craps the bed or not. Like, I'm never leaving you ever.
Yeah. And what you just described, that's an amazing experience. And there's very, very select few of us that have an operation like that, but you have a purpose for it, which is what I like.
Yeah.
It's not just having tech just to have tech. There is the improved experience. And that claims experience, that's amazing. And if that customer was able to understand, like you probably talked her through the whole claim of what's going to happen, went through all that. Meanwhile, she's getting an adjuster call 15 minutes later while you're still on the phone. That's amazing. Well done.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
So you posted a few weeks ago about collecting 200 data points in 10 minutes and the schedule of how that was done. So walk me through like what the process looked like from website submission to, the text to the prospect 10 minutes later.
I got a little punchy with that post. I think I actually said something in the range of, we got a thank you text from our customer within 10 minutes and you barely know what their birthday is. trying to edge myself out with some referral partners out there. So, if you're the one who barely has a birthday by that point, don't take offense. I could teach you how to do this.
Yeah.
So I made a promise to our team. We're a virtually paperless office. If you look around, the only paper we have is basically I kind of have a hot list and a little to-do schedule I put every day, and it just goes into trash. It kind of helps focus my brain, just because I can see it. But everything else is digital. And it outside of our intake form for personal lines. So we still have the old school auto information on the front, home information on the back. You scribble on the margins about the RVs and the golf carts and the boats and all those things, right? We all have it. We'll have some variation of this. It's either overly complex or overly simple, and we're scratching notes in the margins.
Right.
And I needed to find a way to digitize and replicate a consistent process with consistent information every single time. So I am the king. If you hear anything I say, always remember small, repeatable steps. If what you're doing isn't small, repeatable steps, you won't do it often. You and I can climb a mountain, and I can make small steps, and you can make these gargantuan long strides. I promise you, you're going to tire out before me, and I'm going to get further than you are, right? You might make more. You might accomplish more quickly, but I'm going to keep going because it's small and repeatable, and it's not exhausting. So that process was started really with us just finding a way to digitize our personal lines intake. And I built a massive form in Jot form. I actually had the benefit of talking with Justin Miller from iProtect, and he kind of walked me through some of his incredible processes. And we talked for at length about what was right and what wasn't right. And I mirrored a lot of what he was doing just to learn from people who are doing great things, right? I'm only successful because I stand on the shoulders of giants. And Justin is one of those quiet giants that nobody really talks about. So he needs his day in the sun. If nobody knows who he is, you should.
Yeah.
Then we looked at a couple of the other intake platforms out there. So we looked at Risk Advisor and we looked at Salt. And we loved everything everybody was doing. But for our process, when we looked at our current tech stack and how we could integrate, Salt solved a couple of problems for us. Salt offered us the ability to do the internal form, just like everybody else was doing, but it also offered us an external form as well. So that post was about website submission is basically a customer or a prospect raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I'm interested in a quote. Can you get a hold of me?"
Yeah.
That drops into Agency Zoom. Agency Zoom fires the automation. It says, "Hey, Mr. Customer, just got your info. Thanks so much. I'll give you a call soon. But in case you're a little more motivated than most, here's a link. You can fill out your info." And that's a Salt link for us now. And that process, we're able to choose, you can go through the Salt demo and see what it does. There's incredible stuff out there, but it's pulling aggregated data, and it's pulling structured data like Secretary of State VIN checks and registration checks. It's pulling registration checks based on your address, because now I know who you are and what your address is. It's giving options of, are these the 6 cars in your household? It's also pulling property data on the home from the tax assessors. And it's doing all of that without having to log in and provide deck pages, but it can. So it's all one seamless process for our customer. And we had deployed Canopy Connect, and I'm a huge, huge advocate for Canopy and have been for years. And when I saw what Salt was doing, and they have a Canopy-esque plugin where the customers now filled out the information, they're already into that process. There's some trust already built. And now we're asking for the credentials to log in and give us deck pages. We're seeing an exponential increase in the trust factor, and we're seeing a conversion rate 200 to 300 times what we were with just that link, with just the login and give me your deck pages. And that just goes to supplement the information they're already giving. And once they hit submit, we built out a Zap that drops that into Agency Zoom. It goes and it finds it. If it's there, it just updates the lead, moves it to the right stage in the pipeline, and sends out the automation. If it's not there, it will then create it, assign it to the right producer inside of our producer pool, and then it sends the automation saying, "Hey, Mr. Customer, we got this. We're going to get started." So all of that process happened after hours. Our phone never rang. Nobody touched base with this customer. He submitted his information. I think it was like 5:42 or something like that in the evening. I was on vacation in Texas. We had just gotten back from the lake. And I'm watching all this kind of transpire, and I'm just getting the Slack notifications, website submission. Somebody started the SALT form. Somebody finished the SALT form. And then I see the thank you text come through within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that customer has no idea that there's not a real person there. And maybe he does, but he has everything he needs. My team had quotes for him by 10:30 a.m. the next morning, and he was sold by the following day, and his policies were done. And we had everything we ever needed. We had to have a real risk assessment. We understood what his real risk was because it's pulling drivers and driver details and autos and auto details and lien holders and VINs and policies and deck pages and all of that data that we're so desperate to want. But unless you interrogate your customers or your prospects, that's it. That's why our industry has quoters and they have intake specialists, right? So we have two people doing these jobs. Because to have a conversation with someone to grab the right information is a skill.
Yeah.
It's an enormous skill to sit down and say, how many drivers do you have? How old are they? Are they on the honor roll? Do they have good student discounts? Do they ever drive your car? Do they really ever drive your car? Right. Like, we know the truth. Just tell us. We know your kids drive your car. Yeah. So that whole process was again around leveraging technology, being available when our customer was available. So we didn't have to be in the office. It was after hours. We'd been closed for over an hour at that point. By the time they finished it all up, everyone was home. The lights weren't on. The AC wasn't there. Our phone doesn't ring after 5 p.m. If you text, and we tell our customers, if it's an emergency text, we'll see the text after hours. If it's an emergency, we'll call you right back.
Yeah.
I'll call you from my cell phone. I don't care. But if you call the office, it's going to go to voicemail. So just know, text the number. The producers and your account managers see that information. If it's an emergency, we'll get a hold of it. And our team has that commitment that if your house is on fire and you text, hey, my house is on fire, what do I do? We're going to call you. Doesn't happen often, but when it does, it matters.
So in that example, it started at a website submission. So they found you that way.
Yep.
Which it looks like you use Advisor Evolved.
Yep.
Right. And so they filled out that form. Then they were sent basically the intake form from SALT. That was through Agency Zoom, right?
Yep.
That was
so
through Agency Zoom.
Goes from Advisor Evolved, drops into Agency Zoom via the Gravity Forms app connection. That does a couple of things. So anytime you do that, we're building our client email list. So if you fill out the personal lines form, you go to a personal lines email list. You get that personal lines email every week. If you fill out a commercial intake form, guess what? You go to the commercial lines email list, right? In the middle of that process, it goes into the appropriate pipeline inside of Agency Zoom, sends out the automated notifications, and it sends us a Slack notification that someone did this.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising when you walk in the next morning and there's a new lead sitting in the pipeline. You come in, you already have the ambient awareness. You get into the work faster. That automation had a SALT link built into it. They filled out the SALT form, the external facing, customer facing SALT form. And it's beautiful, man.
I got to look at it.
I hope Jonathan and Casey listen to this and everybody over there at SALT. And you just hear me when I say build a commercial form too. Because the world needs a better commercial intake form. And I need them to do it because it's beautiful. It's perfect. Customer fills out that information. And again, it's automatically searching using external data sources that they have linked in to pull property data, driver data, vehicle data. And there's a plugin that allows you to pull deck pages inside that same ecosystem. And then once they finish it up, once they click complete, then it drops back into Agency Zoom. And it's the way we built that Zap. It's moving it over to the right pipeline. It's tagging it appropriately so our producers know that all the information's in SALT. And it sends out the message to the customer. Hey, Brad, got all your info. Thanks, man. We normally take 1 business day to get quotes back. We'll get back to you as soon as we can. If it takes longer, I promise we'll be in contact.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Easy stuff. And then the task is there for our producers to know. The task goes over to the quoting team. So kind of how that breaks up, right? Producer knows it's going on. They're going to review the account. They're going to see all the information. The quoting team's going to go run it through Easy Links, get the right pieces together. And and then give it back to the producer and say, okay, here's the rough quote. You go shore it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Do you still get, so I don't have a program as elaborate as that, but when I see the system, work that way, for example, I've been getting a lot of good leads from Google Ads, that will start, they'll go through the landing page, they'll fill out the initial submission form, we'll have that, automated email and text that go out, kind of the same scenario. Say, if you'd like to get started, here's our intake form, or maybe a Canopy Connect link, and kind of give them the option. And when you see that submission come through, or you have what you need, and you just go, yes, I love it when it works. I still get excited, over it. And it's been in place for well over a year.
Yeah.
So, because it's just beautiful.
Yeah.
You come in the next day, you have everything you need to get started. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Tell me the kind of the makeup of your business. I know you do a little commercial as well. What's your kind of percentages of personal commercial?
So we just looked at this the other day. Premium wise, it's 60-40 personal
nice
commercial.
Mix.
Yeah, it is a nice mix. Customer wise, it's like 90-10. So personal lines customers outweigh our commercial customers 90-10. So we're chasing some of the bigger fish.
Yeah, nice.
Which has been a huge testament to kind of just the process and Killing Commercial and David Carruthers and that whole process took us from not knowing anything to being able to walk in and have conversations where we're a couple $100,000 accounts in premium and bringing in $10,000-$15,000 in revenue to the agency per account. It's not every account, right? But when you can do those on a consistent basis, we built a process around how do we identify, how do we prospect, how do we solve the problems, right? Brad, in our world, whoever solves the biggest problem makes the most money.
Correct.
That's it.
That's it. And that's for just about any business, right?
That's it.
You find a solution to a problem, and you can be the next big thing. What types of accounts are those? Probably middle market. What lines of business are those in?
We have not really jumped into that middle market as much as I thought we would at this point. Mostly contractors. So we're focusing in, our bread and butter has been HVAC and plumbers. We do some masonry contractors, and then just remodel. We've got a couple of nice remodeling accounts, and then solar has really kind of crept in. We've done a couple of solar accounts. I say this, we just lost a big one the other day. Like we thought we were going to win this next big one and it didn't work. But, such is life. You don't always win. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about the members of your team that they took the leap with you.
Yeah.
What does the makeup of your team look like?
So we'll start with the two that were with us to begin with. Previous to our transition, I was the personalized producer. And then we had essentially a CSSR, right? So that customer service and sales rep. So she did all of that tier 2 kind of higher end service. If it needed research or review, she did it. And she took over all the renewal reviews and kind of those back end renewal process, coverage updates. She did a lot of those big things. And then we had just a kind of a tier 1 CSR / receptionist. She would take the payments, do the ID cards, little things like that.
Yeah.
So those two stayed with us. And as we made that transition, that tier 1 CSR moved into the account manager. So she wanted to take on additional pieces of that. We knew as we started over, that would be reception, that would be onboarding, kind of, it started off as somewhat of as an executive assistant to me, as well as that customer service account management side. That CSSR transitioned to nothing but personalized production. And we worked for the first 6 months to make sure that she went from having some experience to taking over all of the leads that were coming in from all the organic and natural and paid sources. So we don't buy leads. So these are all if we're paying for it, it's paying in the marketing dollars and the ads and the giveaways. So to take her into that role, and I spent a lot of time kind of mentoring and making sure she could do 70-80% of what I did. And once she got there, then I started focusing in on more of the commercial. But those two came through Rachel is our producer, our primary personalized producer now. She's been with us 3 years next week. Stephanie is our account manager. She's been with us 2.5 years now. And since then, my wife has had to step into the office a little bit more. For years, she didn't work in our office. She was kind of in the background a lot, but she wasn't ever here. So over the last 4 to 6 months, she's been in the office 1 full day a week, and she's doing work from data management and cleanup and helping with that onboarding process. Throughout for about 15 hours a week. She does that from home mostly. We have added a second personalized producer to the office who is a young kid. He came up to us and it's like, I want to be in insurance. I want to do what you do. And we tried to scare the hell out of him. I'm like, it's not as easy as it looks, man. Like, it's hard. It's difficult. There's a lot of ugly calls here. There's a lot of really tough hangups. There's a lot of no's. You need to know that. He's like, no, it won't be that hard. I'm like, no, it's going to be that hard. And he's gung ho. He's ready to go. So he's still almost a month in. Super excited for him. He's got all his licensing done. He's fully licensed. At this point now, the business cards are ordered, and got some welcome gifts coming in. And then we have another commercial lines producer who came in with us this last February. She was with a captive agency for years, and she decided she wanted back in insurance after she left. And she came in, and I'll tell you what, I want to give recognition to Rachel and Stephanie on the front end, because they took on new roles with new tech. And I was not shy. I was not shy in what we wanted to build. And I think I really struggled with building something that I felt like our team could handle, or building what I knew needed to happen, and then coaching the team into those roles. Because I'm a chicken soup out of chicken poop kind of guy, right? I want to take anybody and believe the best in all of them.
Yeah.
So I really struggled with, really, Brad, we sat there and we're like, okay, I don't know that they can handle this. So let's scale it back a little bit. And the other side was, you know what? This is what we have to do to build the right agency, to do the right things over time, not just in 6 months, but in a year and 6 years. And, when my kids, or when we sell this, or my kids take over, or whoever does what they do in the years to come. And we wrote out impact statements for every role, and agnostic of the person who's going to fill them. And we said, okay, this is what we're going to do. And if you fit, you fit. And I think you can do this, and we'll do everything we can to coach you in, and we'll make sure everything sets the way it needs to set so you're successful. But here's what we expect. Here's how we're going to measure it. And here's how we're going to get there. And we built out what we needed to happen. And both Rachel and Stephanie have far exceeded the bar. It's unbelievable. So I have to say that they took on new roles. They took on new skills. They learned new processes. They have dealt with my ADHD and my chasing the shiny object syndrome over the course of the year. But the testament of our team is in where we hired a new commercial lines producer, and she wanted to focus in on one industry because she had experience there. She wasn't finding traction. She's working part-time, trying to replace her income so she can come full-time. And she just came to me. She's like, I just don't know that this is going to work. I don't know that I can do this like this. And I really want some help. How can I transition what I'm doing to be value to the team and still build and do what I want to do? And we sat and we had an hour-long conversation and retooled what she does, where she's now less of her own producer and more of a kind of a junior producer or a sales assistant to our commercial department. She's doing a lot of the quoting. She's doing a lot of the telemarketing. She's doing a lot of the underwriting conversations, freeing me up to go do other pieces. And we have almost tripled our commercial production because she's supporting me doing what I do well. She's doing something and learning. And we're maybe 60 or 90 days out from her fully replacing her union income to come full-time in the agency to be able to support her family. And she is being conservative with that 90 days, but watching our team think for themselves and watching our team see how they can be a part of it and volunteering to be a part of it has been the most humbling thing I've ever experienced.
Rewarding, right? And when that's buy-in.
Yeah.
Right. And that's very, it's real heartwarming and real touching to see they're on board.
Yeah.
They're just not punching a clock.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we don't even have a clock.
yeah.
If people had to punch in and I had to measure time, I might actually pull out what little hair I do have.
Yeah.
I don't play that game.
Hey, any pushback on, when you were making all those, upgrades in your processes? Sometimes people get comfortable in whatever process it is, whether it's, good, bad, or indifferent. And even though, you're digitizing everything and trying to, modernize everything, sometimes it's like, but I like filling it out on my little form. So a lot of times, any type of changeover creates some pushback. How did your group handle that?
I'll be honest with you, technology wise, I've not seen a lot of pushback.
Yeah.
And we started with one system for our CRM and AMS that we ended up transitioning away from just because of what we needed for flexibility and some customizations. And we sat and had a conversation like, hey guys, I'm considering this change. Tell me the things that are absolute must-haves that we have in our current system that if we change, you can't lose. And then tell me the things that have to get fixed. So if we change, it has to keep what you love and it has to add these pieces. And I think asking for their input has always brought their buy-in because they feel like they're a part of the solution. And I think the only time I really got pushback is when we hired our last producer. We just kind of were running out of desk space, and I was trying to find one essentially box of goodies when I go by. When we hire a new producer, there's the monitor, there's the camera, there's the keyboard, there's the mouse, there's the phone, right? The desk pad, the chair, you name it, right? You've got to buy all these things because we're building from the ground up. And I did it. And I was like, you know what? I don't want two big monitors on the desk. I don't want these big, ugly gas block arms. So we decided to go buy, the 39-inch ultra wide monitors. And I was like, you know what? I'm done. We're just going to buy it for everybody. So I bought the whole team got brand new 39-inch wide monitors. They all got a brand new camera. And we came back from Key West. I think we got into town late afternoon and from a trip down there. And I came in the office that night, and the next morning they showed up. So I wasn't even back from vacation yet. They showed up in the office and they had all brand new monitors. Their laptops are now under desk mounted. Cameras are on the screen, keyboard, mouse, like everything's set up. It's all set to go. They just walk in and one gal like broke down crying because it was different. And it was a really tough week because she was, she's involved in a huge local event. There's some family stuff going on. And she just broke down crying. She's like, there's not as much desk space. So we had to find a solution. And we did. And the other girl's like, I don't know that I like it. I liked how cozy I felt. I'm like, I'm not changing it. I didn't tell her that, but that's kind of the idea I had. And like, well, I'll sit with it for a couple of days. And now like no one says anything now. So if they don't like it, I don't care. But now we know when we hire a producer, wherever that next producer gets hired, we know, okay, here's your laptop, here's your cords, here's your computer, here's your monitor, here's your camera.
Yeah.
Right. It's all set. So that's probably the only real pushback I've gotten from any tech was actually changing
the monitor. Interesting. That's an interesting one, I think. Yeah. But you never know. How are you spending most of your time?
So commercial. I coach the team. So really, and actually I have it on the whiteboard behind my screen here. So marketing, I manage the marketing piece and we trust the experts, a lot of that. So really, if it doesn't find itself in writing the blog, posting the blog, creating a video around the blog. So we do some YouTube stuff and doing that. It doesn't exist in my marketing world. There's 3 levels of ads we run on social. And then there's one set of ads or one type of ad we run on Google. I train all the producers and I continually refine process. Yeah. So if it doesn't fit into those two, it's either recruitment or commercial sales. So I'm always looking to recruit. I'm always looking to kind of consolidate the local marketplace, right? When the old guy down the street wants to sell, I want to buy him. We don't need 17 agencies in a town of 16,000 people. We need probably 12.
Yeah.
We probably need 3, but you'll never buy out all the captives. So
No.
if it doesn't fall into those 4 areas, I don't touch it.
Good.
That's where my filters are, and it's on the board behind me. So every time I get something in front of me, if it doesn't fit into marketing, training, recruiting, or refining process, it doesn't happen.
Yeah, good. You sound like an amazing leader. Your team wouldn't have followed you if they didn't believe in you, and if you weren't. That's how most of my time is structured too. My biggest challenge comes because I still do a little bit of production. And sometimes when that little bit of production gets to be a little bit too much, then I find myself really having difficulty balancing the two. And when I'm then, and sometimes you get into a larger account or whatever it is, takes a little more time than you want it to. And I feel like some of my other responsibilities, whether it's marketing or, leading the team, whatever have you, might suffer a little bit. And that really bothers me. Do you run into that at all, of balancing, sometimes when you get in production versus, running the team?
Oh, I think we all do.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I guess at the start of the day, we were all producers.
Yeah.
I don't know a single agency owner, agency principal that wasn't a producer at some point, or doesn't understand that producer mentality. And at our core, I'm going to sound like a super nerd, right? But if you look at the core function or the base function of every one of the agency owners I know or connect with, we just want to produce business. And we know we can do a great job at it.
Yeah.
So sometimes when things get hard, I default back to that side and the production more than I do the leadership, because leadership is hard.
Yeah.
Production is easy. If production wasn't easy, we wouldn't have had the belief in ourselves that we could do this. So what we've done is we're actually working through building out the process through EOS and Traction. So if you've not read that, that's a huge resource. Yep. And everybody I talk to that does it has got a bigger agency than me. They've got a more successful agency than us. And there are people that we want to model ourselves after. So anybody asking that question, like, that's probably the first resource, because that's all the mentors I have told me that same thing. Second is consistency of action, right? And I think I've said this in a when I spoke at a conference. The activity of a location dictates its purpose. So if I were to put a hot dog stand, if I were to buy out Wrigley Field and put a hot dog stand in it, it's nothing but a hot dog stand from now on. It's no longer a baseball diamond. It's a hot dog stand, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the activity in a location dictates what its definition is. So we do consistent meetings. We have team meetings every Friday. It's a recap celebration meeting every Friday from 9 to 10. And everybody knows we always communicate to all of our customers, hey, I'm going to be busy till 10:30 tomorrow morning. I'll get back to you as soon as I'm done. Just know that our phones are on.
Yeah. If
you call on Fridays at 10 a.m., you're going to get the voicemail that says, we're in a team meeting. We'll call you back soon. So that team meeting and that recap celebration every week is consistent. Our team has to come with an ask for the management team every Friday. It's like, what do you need from me to make your job better?
I like that.
Yeah. And I write it on the whiteboard. It's in big, bright red letters. Every now and then they'll pass. You only get one pass a month, and you can't pass in sequential weeks. So you can't pass the last week of this month and the first week of next month. So there's a couple rules to make sure that it wasn't easy.
Yeah. Tell me that you want popcorn in the office. I don't care what it is, but come with something. Yeah.
Yeah. So we go over goals, and the goals all are dictated by their KPIs. So we do this as a team every Friday to kind of talk through some pieces. We do some training every Friday, but then we have one-on-ones every week. So we have a service meeting, we have a sales meeting, we have one-on-ones with everybody. It's the same week, it's the same day, it's the same time every week. There's no variance in that in our schedule. If we have an appointment, it goes around it.
Yeah.
And those pieces, while they fill up a good chunk of my calendar, and then you look at the marketing and all the other pieces that I have to block time for, it takes an enormous amount of time. But finding that balance is knowing these things have to happen. And my team can be 80% of me, and I can have 4 of them, or it can just be me doing the production. And at the end of the day, do I really want to be doing this for the rest of my day, or do I want to build a team and do I want to enable them to be successful?
Yeah, my opinion, the one-on-ones might be the most important piece of all that.
Yeah.
Well, team meetings are super important too, especially the way you have them structured. Need to check in with our team.
Yeah.
And just be there for them. And it's tough to fit everything in, right? But
Yeah.
you have to schedule it. We are up against the time. I'm going to ask you one last question. And before I let you go, any advice? You've been in business now for just over a year. Any advice for new agents making the jump? That are just early into their career.
Yeah. The two things I tell everybody is train outside of business hours, right? You have to make revenue during the revenue generating hours. Go do the trainings, go do the meetings, get off the webinars. And if you have to be in a webinar, use some sort of AI to jump in for you and go listen to it later in the evening. Just spend the $8 on Fireflies or Otter, let it go to the meeting for you and listen to it later. So train outside of business hours. And number two is always make another phone call. Like, just make one more phone call. Brad, you could have the greatest day in the history of your life. You need to ride that momentum and make another phone call. You could be on an for how many ever phone calls, prospects, presentations, getting struck down, beat down. Your mama could be getting called names. And you just need to make one more phone call because it only takes one call to turn that streak around. Make another phone call. So train outside of business hours and make another phone call.
Love it. That's beautiful. Man, thank you so much for your time. So much in our conversation here. Great to have you. It's great to get to know you. Everyone else, thank you for listening to another episode of the Agents to Owners podcast. We'll see you next week.